So we're working in this course with the attunement points a lot, which are 2 points behind the ears, in the middle of the ear, in the gap here. Like there's a schnick. You want to show her where the attunement points are?
Yeah, I can do that. With you there is a little bump, just in front of the bump,
Okay.
where is the opening in the scope of the ear.
And these 2 points, when there's a clear flow between them, are already creating a balance between right brain, left brain, the experiential and the linear, imagination and verbal thought, linear thought, space and time. So one of the effects can be because rebalancing in a way can feel like a disorientation, a little bit of time and space.
That's why I felt.
What?
I felt.
Disorientated.
Yes.
It's sometimes a hard thing for the mind to accept that what looks like falling into chaos and going backwards is actually a healing movement. But if something's for a long time out of balance, then gently allowing it to move into balance can feel at first like it's a craziness. We use these 2 points to attune to stuff. Yesterday we did exercises attuning to the chakras, some of the chakras, including some partner work. That's just the background of where we've been listening. Today we're going to work a little bit for the first time, I think, with the heat point as well.
Oh, that's good. The one that you said.
Heat point. The heat point is 4 centimeters below the...
2 finger broads below the navel.
I've got little fingers.
Yeah.
It's below the navel. By itself you will be pulled into it when you move the attention below the navel a little bit.
You said it was 2 fingers below?
2 finger broads.
Where's the hara? Hara is 4 fingers?
The hara is around the hump growth, 4 fingers, and then below that.
You just call it a heat point?
It's called a heat point. Later on, Bart will give a lot of the precise explanations. I'm not going to even go there. We have an exercise with it.
H-E-A-T or H-I-T?
Good question.
A-T, right?
You want a hit?
Who knows?
It's heat with some heat in it.
Okay, thanks.
With your rhythm stick.
So, part of the effect of this course is the movement beyond the thinking mind, the habitual thinking mind. Left brain. And the balancing to the spaciousness and creativity or imaginative openness of the right brain. This is also, to put it really simply, a movement from head to heart. As Racheli said earlier, talking about a book on quantum physics, it's 2 different dimensions in a way. It can be seen as 2 different dimensions, which sometimes are attuned to each other, and sometimes are off. Our heart is feeling one thing, vibrating in one way, and our mind is doing something else. The mind is not following the heart in a naturalness. The mind and all of our fears tends to be constructed on the basis of past and future, of what was historically, or what is stored in memory, as a series of warning signs of what could be in the future. It's very, very hard for fear to to stay in a frozen way in the now. To stay in fear, we have to sacrifice the now. In this whole dimension of what could be, what might happen, that bad things might happen, that if I move like this, then this and this could happen, there's an incredible restriction on our freedom to experience. And the mind is very primitive in this. It's like the child that says, if you step on a crack, I break my mother's back. It's almost superstitious. And no matter how developed we are in our intelligence and our learning and our degrees, it still goes on this program. Don't think this, because you will create it as a reality.
That's all over the place.
This is the mind's kind of short circuit into fantasy land, into pure illusion. If something, an image keeps appearing, good, don't think it, but feel what's behind it. Because feeling will release the one image and lead to a deeper story. It's the opposite movement of running with the mind from fear, is to go to the source of and feel what's behind it, just to feel, to research with our feeling abilities, to ponder. So in a way we're very conditioned that the mind is über alles. Über alles. It's in charge. It's the important one. Left mind is the business. If we stick with our left mind, we survive. This is quite a deep program, based on fear. Paradoxically, the more afraid we become, the more in danger we become as well. Our perception gets distorted of where the threat is actually coming from, or if at all. Meaning we can be in this survival mode of fear based on something which already happened, a trauma. It's not going to happen again. But we're still in the same fear, in this short circuit. When we move against the basic programming and conditioning of the mind and allow feeling, it's really simple. Just feel what's there. It is connected. Always. Even if we don't understand it, why or how at first, what we're feeling will always have a connection with the patterns of our thoughts. It's this soil out of which our thoughts are growing. The seeds are there. So the more we can allow feeling, the more we move underneath fear on a more causal level. What's causing the many, many thoughts? The more we move and are able to allow the areas of pain or freeze or the blockages or the restrictions in energy, the more we're able to feel them, the more clear the mind becomes. Because it's in care. The energy is in care, the mind can relax a bit. The more clear the mind becomes, the more safe we are in a way. The more we see solutions, the more structures emerge which are practical, reasonable, rational. It's ironic, it's a paradox. By dropping a level, we actually liberate the mind to do its job in a natural way, attuned, in a way which is attuned. For example, somebody in America who goes in a white neighborhood of Philadelphia who goes into stress every time he sees a black man because his mother was mugged by a black man 20 years ago, at a certain stage, in order to function, will repress that stress, not see any black people, not respond, and when a black guy comes in with a gun, he's the last one to notice. Fear isolates also. And in the isolation of fear and the busy mind which is created by fear, we close down our perception, which means we close down part of what's shared, the collective consciousness, where there's all kinds of information to do with survival as in a togetherness. In the tsunami in Bangkok, the animals went long before the people did. So, in attuning to the heart, we are creating the needed space for the time structures of the left mind to synchronize, to come into alignment. Space and time go together.
Can you repeat that?
In the movement of feeling to the heart, opening the feeling area, we create a lot of spaciousness, just by allowing feeling in the first place. The more spaciousness we create, the less caught we are in time, past, present, future. The story, the program, the software of our minds. We come more into the now. Why? Because partly because the moment we feel something, we are in the now. You can't feel something yesterday. You can only feel now. The now is free of the story of the program, of what was, of what could be. It's free of fear. It's not that fear can run through the now, but the now will not hook into and attach to fear, or freeze it, or repress it. In the now, fear just becomes a resource of electrical energy, or a happening, like a lightning, an awakening. So, to support the mind, to liberate the mind, we move from consciousness to the level of awareness, to feeling awareness. It's really a different sense, it's not moving with our conscious minds, it's not only moving with our conscious mind and what it is to feel, and watching our feelings, and looking at ourselves like this. There's also a whole capacity to feel directly. The feeling of the feeling. To be aware of awareness. To inquire like this, what is love? We meet a feeling of love. So to feel how it is to feel, this area that feels, and this requires in some ways a lot of surrender of the conscious controlling aspect, or a minimalization to a dot of it, to really move to this dimension, to be here.
So anxiety attack is a stuck emotion or a feeling that the heart cannot contain, or how?
It's stuck thought patterns in the first instance. It's the kind of being caught within a particular kind of vision, and the nervous system feels such a survival threat. And especially if we've had an anxiety attack before, there's anxiety of the anxiety, and it begins to spin off itself. It's often very, if you look to what's happening in the mind, before the mind kind of gives up in anxiety, it's very, very much obsessing on in a particular perspective. Whatever we fear, it's not going to happen like we imagine it in 1,000 different forms, and this imagination projected out of the fear creates this hell which is called anxiety. We can imagine ourselves dying in 2,000 different ways, in 2,000 million different forms of suffering and torment. But actually we only die once. But we do this to ourselves. In a way we create our own hell when we move with fear. When we take our direction based on fear, rather than taking the fear as our flag to ponder more deeply on what's happening in the layer of feeling. What else is happening? Okay, there's fear. What else is here? But moving to the heart and to the layer of awareness, we're moving into an area of incredible receptivity. As Bart said yesterday, of allowance. Which can leave us in a way like kind of floating and too exposed. So we get thrown up again into the mind often. It's too painful. We don't have structure. We need structure. Boundless space is an incredibly beautiful aspect to have in our experiential world, but of itself, it's not a building block. We need boundaries. We also have beneath the heart the whole physical, which has a whole intelligence of its own. As you see when you take a medication for anxiety, it's the brain chemistry is like extremely important, as we see when we're pregnant. The personalities change according to the intelligence of nature, of the body, of the physical. So there's still a little bit like a kite, something which is hard to stay. First it can be beautiful to move into feeling, and we can make this circulation between mind and heart, mind and heart. But it's hard to really stay here. It's more like a constant negotiation or attunement between two dimensions. And this is where we come to one of the incredibly beautiful spiritual aspects of the heat point. In a way, from the heart, we're attuning through the layers of energy and the electrical magnetic fields of mind. But the physical is still left out. From the heat point, when we allow ourselves to feel from the heat point,
Feel from?
to feel from the heat point and When I say feel from, it's not necessarily feelings or emotions, it's the physical sensation of being in the heat point. One of the beauties there is that in being here in the heat point, opening the window there, perceiving from there, sensing from there, letting ourselves rest there, is that physical sensations, the sense of physically being here, and what we normally call feelings and emotions equalize much more. It's got the same value. They become one. You don't need to ask. Anyway, you're thinking in Hebrew. Just feel the feelings. You don't need the names, in a way. You are the only authority. Your experience is the only authority. When we need to label an experience, it can be useful, this is a good example, from clarity of mind to give structure to ourselves, which is totally a bullshit structure, which is very useful for the mind to make sense and to understand. But it's not absolute. Anger is not anger. Forever. And your anger is a different flavor from my anger, although it's both anger. Within your anger and my anger is pain. You can go on, and jealousy and insecurity and abandonment. We could go on and on and on with labels. But all of what we tend to do is to go with the labels because we don't want to feel it. Why don't we want to feel it?
So it's not good.
Not pleasant.
Why is it not pleasant?
Because we decide it's not pleasant. We decide it's pleasant. Pleasure. Like
Why would you decide it's not pleasant?
Because we need the
Sadness can be pleasant sometimes. Also fear. When you're a kid, you like to hide, to play hide and seek, and you're afraid to be caught, and it's fun.
Living with all of the emotions is the joy of living.
Yeah.
Exactly, like a child. A child can be in an angry tantrum and laughing the next moment and playing the next moment. In the moment, all the colours of the rainbow are there, and there's no judgment between them. It's not like the child says, "I'm having a profound spiritual moment now." You know?
Maybe it's worthwhile to really ponder a little bit more deeply, to look into a little bit more deeply why it is unpleasant to be angry. You know, why is it unpleasant?
First of all,
Afraid of
physical
rejection.
level. Why did you say it's less
No, it's
pleasant on the
really-
physical level?
I find it unpleasant in the personal level, more on the social level.
Ah,
It's
so there's
you're afraid that someone won't accept your anger, for example.
and when you accept your anger yourself and you shouting to somebody and you tell the person that he's an absolute piece of shit, is that pleasant or not pleasant?
But it's not pleasant to hurt someone.
Your husband.
Maybe it's unpleasant.
But-
Maybe it's better it's keeping his face there.
No, not for me.
Just throw it out.
And we move into the social field.
Not for me. I mean, the moment you hurt someone, for me, sometimes if someone pissing me off, I'm thinking about the worst thing I could do to him. Yeah? And the moment I'm thinking about it, compassion is coming forward as well. I see him, I don't know, I'm thinking about hitting the person. If I'm going that far with my thoughts, and then I can feel the compassion because I see him after I beat him or something. Yeah. And I see how
you really fucked him over.
No, I just, for a moment, we take a little bit of time. I really want you to listen to each other. What's happening? What's happening when I listen to you is that, the first thing is a laughter, because there's a recognition when you express anger, it's not an unpleasant feeling. But maybe it's unpleasant to hurt another person. And then comes a whole story. This is a whole story of the mind. This is where the mind interferes. Emotion in itself is really not unpleasant. Anger is not unpleasant. Fear, if it just has its natural cause, has something very, very pleasant. But then the mind interferes with it. The mind tells a story about it, but it's very bad to hurt another person. Why is it bad to hurt another person? Do you feel when you hurt another person?
If we fear.
Feel.
Yeah.
When you hurt another person?
Yeah, it comes back to you, of course.
So, are you able to contain that feeling?
Yeah.
And are you able to stay in connection with the other person?
Yeah.
No.
And say, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, is it that bad if another person is saying something hurtful to you? And he stays in connection with you and says, sorry, I was really pissed off. Is that the end of the world? No, I just give forward examples. It's like, I'll tell one story and then I give it back to George, but really to think about it is how quickly the mind interferes and exactly what George brings forward. It doesn't help to label your feelings or emotions, because in the labeling is already a whole process of how we brought up. I was brought up in an old-fashioned Dutch family. As a child, I give one example. I was able to jump from big heights. 6 meters was what I could reach as a little child to jump. I had this crazy thing to jump from higher and higher and higher places. Then one day, my father saw me jumping. And he was in a rage, because I was jumping from the gutter of the house down in the garden. For me, it was kind of, a feeling of freedom, to be able to jump like this. But he was fearful. So his fear brought him in a rage. And he said to me, you first have to think before you do something. And that really came in. And the next time I wanted to jump, I started to think. And I started to think about everything what could happen. And fear came forward. And I got a fear of heights. This is where my fear of heights was born. Because I started to imagine what could happen when it went wrong. And before that there was pure trust. Pure trust in my physical reflexes. So, what I remember is that I felt incredibly cheated by my father. You have to think before you act. You have a feeling, you have an emotion, you think before you act. Especially on the level of the heart. If you feel love towards somebody, you have to think before you act. Because otherwise you're a sucker, otherwise people will abuse you, otherwise things will end in tears.
I know this sentence.
You got one of those as well. It's also our family motto. It will all end in tears.
It's recognizable.
It's true, it does all end.
What?
I had the Bulgarian baby nanny.
Yeah.
She said, "Igrachka, plachka." First you're happy, then you're going to cry.
After joy come the tears.
So, but when we think about it, this is basically, I think, how we all brought up. Don't trust your experience. Don't go by your feelings. Don't go by your emotions. Think before you act.
And then you're stuck.
What do you, as a child, I didn't understand. What do you have to think? You are angry, so what do you have to think about? So I started to imagine how my anger started to totally destroy another person. And for a period in my life, I thought if I really would express my rage, that other people would drop dead. It's just anger. You know,
But it has a very strong energy.
It has a strong energy, and we all feel this energy.
Rising and
When we are,
strong.
when people cannot recognize us, when we're in our little tin driving, we use this energy a lot. Beep. So then we incognito. So are people dropping dead because of our beeping? It's all aggression.
So it's strong. So what? No, it's doing them a favor, actually. When I see somebody in the red light and he's not moving and I can see he's talking, and so I give him a little beep, you know, to wake him up. And I think I would be happy if somebody beeped for me, if I was kind of
It's a story of the
forgetting.
mind.
It's-
You don't know if the person will
it's
be
service,
happy.
yeah.
You know, he's just listening to his friend who's telling, my husband died last night. And the guy is waiting a little bit to contain it. And you beep.
And I think it's very clever.
I
Stories.
don't mind,
You
just,
create
I was
thinking.
thinking about something else.
I know.
And I forgot it, and somebody reminded me that I should move. And
Yeah.
in my heart, I say, thank you for that little beep.
Exactly.
That woke me up to what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Which I allowed myself to daydream, not being, tense to look at the light and to feel, oh, it's changing, I need to move.
It's
I
a
allow
story.
myself, and then somebody gives me a little beep, and I go, and it's great.
Yeah, but that's your story. But
That's my story.
Yeah. Somebody else's story could be something totally different, and sometimes it will not even, that story will not be your story.
So the fear of hurting others is a strong fear for people who are sitting in healing courses. Which means they have an issue with their own anger. They're not at peace with their own anger, because anger hurts others. So how rational is this fear of hurting others? And how free can we be in working with healing while this fear is deciding our direction? When this belief is really, really, really strong that I am not allowed to hurt others, the lesson will come of itself. We will find we are hurting other people just by being here, just by existing. The lesson will come of itself. We're hurting people all the time, in our innocence, consciously or unconsciously. People will blame us and accuse us and be disgusted at us without it having anything to do with anything that we've done. People will be hurt by us without even knowing who we are or who they are. This is the social field. It's here which, if we let it be our God, we will lose our freedom as healers. You sit with a client and it's a good thing when they cry. It's a good thing when they get angry.
It's a good thing when they reject you. It's a good thing when they push forward.
Whatever is what's needed. So this is a really good example of how working inside ourselves has a direct effect on our ability to be of service to others. So this is the heat point. This is one of the beauties of the heat point. In being there, first of all, the conflicts of the heart, the movement of energy moves up like this. It's like the movement from head, busy mind to heart. The movement from heart to heat point contains both. It gives us support for both.
The movement from heart to
Being-
heat point contains what?
In being in the heat point, the heart is much more free, because we're not in it, to move in a kind of very soft freedom, according to what's needed, without judgment. This is very different from being in the mind and connecting to the heart, where there's already a lot of selection going on, even consciously or not, unconsciously, according to the program, when we're there in the vibrational level of the heat point, feeling the vibrations. In the first instance, how our presence is there, open. At first, when we feel the heat point, it can feel a little bit vulnerable, because we're moving a stage deeper into the physical, from the heart. We become a little bit more for real, so there can be a vulnerability. But also, what's there is a kind of glowing hominess, a kind of fine blend between peace and love.
In the heat point.
In this whole wormhole, this whole channel, this space, there is the possibility of feeling the sanctity of the physical, the atmosphere of sanctity, of sacredness, of physical. Because by being there, allowing our eyes and ears to be there, to feel there, to sense there, we're allowing the physical aspects. It's worth trying this, researching this, because it, in a very, very soft way, without any contradiction or either or, gives us a place to rest and be, where thought is much less an interference, where attunement happens without a subject and an object. Where the heart has the freedom to do exactly what's needed for it in its movements of transformation or movements of protection.
So you're talking about something about to do with the presence in the heat point is allowing the whole channel between heart and physical.
In the same way the heart moving to the feeling level here, the emotional feeling level, is liberating the fears, moving down to this dimension, allowing ourselves to be here whenever we think of it, when we're walking, when we're washing up, when we're bored, allowing ourselves to feel vibrationally from here what's happening here, now. This frees, because our perception, our consciousness is here, we're much less likely to identify or attach to what's happening in the heart, which means the heart is much more liberated to move how it needs to.
That's what you were saying, this was a blend point almost between the physical, being very physical, and the heart.
And the mind. There is something really, really important, because we can have because of the programming and the fear, we can have a lot of distrust towards moving to what maybe traditionally is called the animal aspect of ourselves. That's where the anger is, that's where the sex is, that's where the horniness is, that's where whatever. The physical anyway is no, we want to be holy, so. And who's to say that the heart will do what's needed if we're not there to kind of manipulate a little bit, arrange stuff? Can you trust the heart? Can you trust the life that moves through you? The pure vitality, which is anger or fear. Can you trust that it will go where it's needed if you let it go? So this leads to a kind of research or pondering or experiential inquiry into what life is. What is this life that we're coming into, that we're here for? Don't want to go into a whole discussion, but I will tell about one little experiment that was done in the university. It's on YouTube, of a whole bunch of metronomes that count the time with music, and they're all vibrating, they're all beating randomly, each one doing his own thing. It's done in Japan. Have you seen it? So they're all totally unsynchronized. Yeah.
After a while.
Within 5 minutes?
Synchronized.
Within 5 minutes, all of them except one. There's always one. They're all going like soldiers. They're totally moving with a tendency towards harmony. And then the last one came in as well.
Oh, wow.
Like, duck, duck, duck. It's amazing to watch this video.
Yeah, I saw it.
Is it just called metronome or something?
Just, you can, something like that, you'll find it. Metronome, synchronization, harmony. There is a natural tendency within this universal intelligent source, which is life, one of the towards harmony. We see it everywhere. I'm relaxing the mind now, because it has to also make sense. We see it in spirals, we see it in structures of trees. And we can see it directly in ourselves. Things move of themselves towards harmony, towards attunement. The only way to believe this is to be in the heat point and to allow the heart to do what it needs to do with the vitality which is released and available to us. And to witness it, here and there. And to witness the mind, also moving into harmony. It's amazing how little thoughts, how few thoughts are needed for harmony in the mind. How many thoughts we never needed to think in the first place. It's amazing also to become aware by degrees of how thoughts emerge of themselves in a very beautiful, natural, complete way if we don't do the thinking. If we just leave it alone. It's not that we lose our brain. It's also amazing to allow this freedom to be in a certain position. This is an incredible ability we have as humans to choose our perspective. So to be caught in the mind and to say, okay, I will be now at the heat point for a while. And to watch that. So what's watching that? From where? This movement from the heat point, and then back into busy mind, and then okay, back to the heat point. All of this is seen by something deeper still, even than the perspective of this one, this position, or this position. Or this position. Ow! This is the freedom we need for life to come to life. The freedom to move between perspectives.
And that's something which really can be helpful as well. It's kind of, several days, several times a day, just for a minute. Just watch yourself. Where am I now? What am I doing? What I'm feeling? What's happening? Because we're so entangled in the happening that we don't use our awareness to kind of look back what is happening.